And hello, hello, happy Sunday. It is the Tour of Love show, and my name is Tamara Hunter. I am joined by my co-hosts, which I have with me Caroline Brown and Skip, also known as Poe. Today, our guest is Barbara Hopkinson. She was recognized on Service Hero Show this last week or so, 2 weeks ago possibly, for the work that she does out there in the world. She truly is a service hero. Well, she was asked to come on the tour of love. And we are going to be talking about just how it is that she is sharing the love and the frequency, helping to raise that frequency of the world. So how are my co-hosts today?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm beautiful, sunny. We're getting up close to 80 degrees here in Arkansas, which is where I'm at. And it's beautiful. How's it up there in Canada, Caroline?
It's rainy.
Uh-oh.
Rainy and cold. But you know what?
Well,
we'll get through it.
It's all good, huh? Well, it's springtime, and so happy spring. We are welcoming from the East Coast. We were talking about it. She lives close to the ocean, guys. Barbara Hopkinson. However, it's more than where she lives, that why she's here with us on the Tour of Love. You have a story, Barbara, and I am going to let Skip and Caroline take it from here in just a moment. However, before that, we are going to recognize that we are live on the E360 TV platform. And what does that mean? That means we hope that you'll go and get the app. This is how you do it. We want to recognize everyone that is joining us, and hello to you, Ripka James. So there is a bit of a video clip that we're going to share, and we're going to share it. It gives a little bit of Barbara's story, and then from there, Skip, Poe, and Caroline, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk with Barbara about what it is that she is doing to serve the world and to help to raise the frequency of love.
I'm Barbara J. Hopkinson, President and Executive Director of A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal, a nonprofit helping grievers. The name of my organization, A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal, the first part of that was the title of my first book is A Butterfly's Journey. And it's because it was written about my journey and the fact that butterflies are an international symbol of transition. I think of them, and in this context, as being a transition of our children from a physical to a spiritual life, and ourselves, their parents and their families, transition from a life with them to a new life without them. And that's where, when I added the second part of To a New Normal, that's really what it's about. Things will never be the same, but you can be happy again, and you can find a new normal, and that's what our children want for us. You can find out more about the organization and the work we do at abutterfliesjourney.org.
Whoops. Yes, she was on the Service Hero Show, everyone. So I am going to turn this over to Poe.
Wow. Well, I mean, Barbara, welcome. And it's
thank you.
There's so many different things flying through my mind and my heart about this topic, and that relates to certainly my journey, and I think to probably Tamara's and Caroline's, and probably everybody who's watching this, because I don't know anybody who isn't touched, just like we say, touched by cancer, but my gosh, grief. And what an amazing, the transition part of that. And I'll start because it really hit me about I lost my brother. And when you said transition, and it was unexpected, I thought I was supposed to be with him at that night. It was a sledding accident. He was, at 36 years old. And so because I wasn't there, I felt a lot of stages, and people go through that, but I felt a lot of guilt. I felt a lot of grief. And at some point when I was going through all this, I asked, what is the gift in this? It's horrible, horrible. And I did. I actually took the watch off. He was such a social person, took his watch off of his body in the emergency room when I was with him and put it on mine and said, my life is going to be different. And, when you say transition and butterfly going, through that transition of becoming a butterfly from the caterpillar, that's so critical and sometimes hard to do. But tell me a little bit about where you got into this and what inspired you along this journey, because you said it had something to do with your own journey and then how it's touched so many people. I can only imagine.
Yes, thank you. First, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be on the show, and I'm so sorry about your brother. This kind of stuff is very tough. And yes, I went through some very tough things as well that put me on this path. I've lost 3 children. I had a miscarriage, and I mentioned that because a lot of people don't get to really grieve or acknowledge when miscarriages, because they're more common, but still they hurt just as badly. And then I had 2 boys that grew up, and when they were 4 and 6, Brent and Brad, 6 and 4, my 3rd son, Robbie, was stillborn. And so the hardest part of that was obviously very difficult, but going home and telling the boys that their little brother wasn't coming home was a really tough part. And then they grew up, wonderful young men. And my older son, Brent, went off at his choosing to military high school and to Arizona State University, an Army ROTC scholarship, because he wanted to be an Army pilot. And he had already actually passed the written test. But he was an adrenaline junkie like his mom. And he got on a friend's motorcycle he had no business being on, had experience. And he had a motorcycle accident and died in that. It threw him. He ran it into a loading dock wall. Thank you. Right in front of the ASU Law Library. And it catapulted him. He landed 56 feet away at his head. He had promised us he wouldn't get on without a helmet, but there's no helmet laws out there. And his friend didn't bring a helmet with him. They were just going to breakfast. They were just trading vehicles to go to breakfast. So my life changed entirely. A year after that, my 30-year marriage ended. The grief was a catalyst to that. It wasn't the whole issue, but it was a catalyst to it. Fast forward a few years, I met a wonderful man, Jim, my second husband, and we were married 11 and a half years. And he left one morning. We had tickets to go to a show that night, and he had a widowmaker heart attack on his way to work. And luckily, nobody else got hurt. Because he was driving, but he was in the process of turning around in a parking lot. There he is. He was 6'9", as nice as he was tall. And we took this picture. I'll tell you later about the Faces of Resilience photos I do, but this was one of them. And take nothing for granted. And I found that photo the night he died, and we had taken it 2 years earlier as part of my thing. So it's a really good lesson for everybody. Really take nothing for granted. So he died. So I was already a bereaved mother. And that prompted me to start a local chapter of the Compassionate Friends, which supports family after a child dies. And they're the largest grief organization in the world, TSCF USA, and they've got like 600 chapters all over the US. So I started that in 2003 after my son died. And then, of course, I became a widow after Jim died. And then before that, I wanted to do more, and I started A Butterfly's Journey, which is broader grief, for all different kinds of grief. And I got certified in 2015 to be a grief recovery method specialist. And again, we can talk more about what that means later. But in any case, there's I love that butterfly. Is that cool? Anyway, I'm a butterfly freak, as you can tell. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So you were talking about how it prompts you to do things. And it took me a long time to get to this point, but I really believe that I had to go through these losses because my purpose in life was to do this work. And I'm good. I'm resilient. I'm happy. I've got, my remaining son, Brad, is grown, owns his own restaurant. He's a chef. He's given me 2 grandchildren. My adult stepchildren from my second marriage, I'm very close to them, and I have 2 grandchildren from them. So I'm a happy Nana. There's 3 of them. There's a little one that's only 2 months old, which is Charlie, was just born recently. And so you can find happiness again. And I believe this is my purpose in life, and you can't really understand it unless you've been through it. And I'm sorry, I will stop talking now.
No, thank you. Thank you. And so sorry for your losses. My gosh.
Oh, thank you.
But the inspiration of flipping that into helping other people, and I'd love to hear, Caroline, how you were listening to this and relate. But also, it doesn't have to necessarily be a loss of life, because I was spending it can be a career. It can be
Absolutely.
A relationship. It can be a lot of changes in life. That even if they're not empowering things that you're letting go of. I was talking to a person today that he was in this horrible energy, and part of it was a relationship, part of it was other stuff, and it's over, but he's still grieving over that thing that was so unhealthy. And oftentimes with grief, my dad, military captain, doctor, self-made man, just get through it, tough it up. You're a man. Don't let me see you cry, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When my grandmother died, and that was his mom. I cried. He got very upset for me, but to toughen it. So, that's that process of transformation, through grief is something that I just, I think is such a huge thing, because everybody is touched with that. Caroline, how does what Barbara's talking about relate to some of the experiences in your life and things you've gone through and going through?
Well, I can relate to having a miscarriage in between my 2 kids. I was actually, I don't even know what happened. I was paralyzed to my bed where I couldn't get up and walk. So I called my mom, who lives in Scotland, and I said, Mom, I don't know what's going on. I can't move. I can't feel my legs. So I ended up being rushed to the Emerge, and they had to do what they had to do to remove the baby. And it took a while to recover from that, and then, the journey I've gone through with my daughter, who's lost 7 miscarriages before she had her first. And
sorry.
After that, she had her first baby, and we were so happy and joyful to have him. And then she had 2 more miscarriages before she had her second one. And that was due to a genetic thing in her husband's family that caused the miscarriages, because they had to reach a certain chromosome. Otherwise, the baby wouldn't make it. But my daughter didn't give up, because she really wanted a baby, and now I got 2 beautiful grandchildren from her. And boy, oh boy, they keep me going, let me tell you.
Oh, they're the best thing in the world.
Oh, I have 7, so.
Wow.
They keep me all going.
Wow. Well,
but I
thank
also
you.
had
So sorry.
To cancer. And this was a rough year for me. 2017 was a really rough year for me. I lost my aunt on the 22nd of December. Or no. Yeah, the 22nd, I think it was. And then I lost my cousin who had MS, who was in like a care facility. And then I lost my dad on Christmas Eve. And then after that, I lost my uncle. So it was a rough year for me to get through that. And I decided to binge eat. That was my way of getting through the grief. And, I didn't know what to do or who to talk to. So I did a lot of binge eating.
It's common. It's something in the grief recovery method that we call short-term energy relieving behaviors, STIRBs. And I think everybody has them. And eating, drinking, retail therapy, lots of different things like that. And there are quite healthier ways to do it. And I'm sorry about your loss, and also Poe about yours. And it's, but it's everybody's unique in their loss, and they have their own time frame, and you can't You can't will it. You can't will it away because you can't go around it. You have to go through it. So if you avoid it or you push it down, it will come back at you. So,
We have Shannon Green that has joined
see.
us, one of our
Okay.
buddies. Hello, Shannon. And she is asking a question, and we want to invite others that may be watching right now to also ask questions. And she says that she has a friend, Linda, who lost her son to suicide 2 years ago. What advice would you give her?
Oh, I'm so sorry for her loss, Shannon. And, you know, she really needs to reach out and make sure she's got support with whatever she's comfortable with, whether that's therapy, whether it's contacting someone else, or like myself that does grief recovery method, because it's an evidence-based method. I deal with a lot of people that have suffered loss to suicide. My Compassionate Friends chapter used to be, years ago, about maybe 10% that was suicide or overdose. Now it's about 50%. It's definitely an epidemic. And I had a retreat here at my house run by a good friend, Elaine Albert, who lost her son to suicide. And she does very specialized things around that. And we had a retreat, and we had a dozen mothers here who had all lost sons to suicide. And, you know, you need to get some help. You need to be able to talk through it. I would recommend also that she journals, you know, writes letters to him, really gets out all the good, the bad, and the ugly feelings. And the grief recovery method, which is, by the way, complementary to support groups or to therapy. Doesn't compete with it at all. But it's a 7-week process, one-on-one, or 8-week in a group, where you go through tools and you work on undelivered communications. So it allows you to complete a relationship that maybe you haven't. And there's a lot of extra guilt and regret around suicides and things like that, because people, even if they probably could not have prevented it, because it might have happened eventually. I know several cases where they just kept trying over and over until they were successful. I've got a nephew who died by suicide as well. And it's tough. It's a very tough thing, and it takes time and hard work. But basically reach out or connect me through at butterfliesjourney.org. I'm happy to do a free call to kind of talk through options and ideas.
And you also have, I love what you have on your website, and that is you have different tips and ideas. And we have a few of them here right now. And there's one in regards to keeping memories. I'm going to share that right now.
This is my son Brad and me. We chose to heal after losing both Brad's younger and older brothers. You can imagine we went through a period of time that was extremely difficult and incurred massive changes in our lives. My name is Barbara J. Hopkinson of A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal. We help individuals and families struggling with grief to find a new normal after experiencing the loss of a child, sibling, or other traumatic loss. The fact that you are experiencing something that you never thought would happen is exactly why it is normal to feel like Brad and I were feeling. And this is why we suggest memories and keepsakes as a way to help heal. There are multiple ways they can help you with grief. We all love to have something that belonged to the loved one we lost. Even though it may be sad, it is comforting to share memories with others who knew your loved one. We suggest that you encourage positive and funny stories from others about the ones you lost. It provides some much needed stress relief, even in the early memorial ceremonies. Some suggestions regarding keepsakes. Give yourself time before tackling the tough job of going through your loved one's belongings, unless you need to move them. If so, get help and consider that you can put them in storage until you are ready. Take your time and really consider what you want to keep. If possible, share some belongings with others in the family and close friends. They'll appreciate it. Know that you should not feel obligated to keep everything. Don't feel guilty about getting rid of things that no one wants or that you have no reason to keep. Keepsakes are comforting and memories are powerful. They were for us as we chose to heal.
Well, whoops, again. Yes, And I want to say that personally, thank you for that clip. That clip made such a huge impact on me that I actually took a couple of days off because I was finally ready to face some things that I hadn't faced after my own loss. And it had to do with the why behind the nonprofit that we have. And I had kind of shut off in a closet in an area some things that I just didn't know how to handle. I didn't know how to go through. I just didn't know how to sort through. I'd given things away to the appropriate people, but these were the last of the things. And I'm thinking, okay, now I'm in the process of the move. It's been so many years. When you said, don't feel guilty, let go. And some of the verbiage that you used in that clip, I kept going back to it. And it allowed me to finally face something that I had not been able to. So I want to say personally, thank you.
Oh, sweet. Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry for, again, all the feelings you go through, but really the things are things, right? And you want to keep whatever, is important to you. I'm wearing my son's graduation ring. As a matter of fact, I don't wear it all the time, but once in a while I put it on, and I felt like it would bring me good karma for my show today. But they're with you in spirit. I've totally proven that to myself, that their spirit continues. That's what a butterfly's journey meant to me. I was on a mission to see if my son's spirit continued, and all of their spirits continue. So they're with you. So the things are lovely, but they don't need them anymore, and that's not where they reside, right? They reside around you.
Right. So thank you. Thank you. And on behalf of anybody that might be dealing with that also, because it's not an uncommon thing. I've talked to so many people, and it's like, how do you face that? How do you deal with it? And so thank you for not only that tip, but then the many others that you have. There's one, Poe, I know that you have all the instruments around you. Music, that's an area. Art, that's an area. Cooking, Caroline, you love to cook.
Well, and it's so beautiful, Barbara. And thank you, Tamara, for being open and and sharing, because that's part of the healing spiritual journey and the grief and dealing with the grief. What a beautiful example of working through that. So congratulations and thank you, Barbara. I mean, the number of lives you've changed, as we were talking, it's just with I keep going back to, how do you process through that? And there's not a lot of tools. You're very alone feeling. And some people, like my dad, would say, just tough up and get through it, and stop crying. You're a man, and that was even with his own mother. And so there was a lot of, but to hear you say in that video that these feelings are normal. Yeah. Is so beautiful. And a lot of times, this is a tour of love. And so we always try to bring things back to love and what's love got to do with it. And the pain and the grief wouldn't even be there if it wasn't for that level of love. Right. I mean, you're down there, grief is 75, love's way up there at 500. But the fact that you're grieving and you may be down in that grief is all related to the love you felt for that person. Right?
Oh, absolutely. And love does not end when life ends. I've got one great photo that somebody did. I think it's on the front of my website even. It's called "Life Ends, Love Doesn't." And she's written it across her arms like this. And it's just beautiful. Wow. And that's so true. And especially once you really trust that your loved one's spirit continues. And for me, a big turning point was when I stopped thinking of my son's life as a loss and started thinking of it as a gift. And if I had to make the choice to do it all over again or never having known him, I'd do it in a heartbeat. And when you start realizing that and then focus on the positive memories. So now when I think of him, I just think of him, okay, he's maybe on the other side of the world where I can't physically see him and touch him, but he's still with me. And luckily he sends some signs once in a while, but also it's just, I feel so connected, and I think about all the fun things we did, the mother-son trips. You know, he talked me into a bungee jump one day, you know. So, you know, and that's the kind of stuff I think about when I think about him now, as opposed to the pain of the loss. So if these folks, especially, I know it's so tough with, you know, with suicides and overdoses and any kind of death. But if you can, it takes a while, right? It takes some practice. But if you can transition to thinking of them like that, that's how they want. They want you to heal. They want you to be happy again. They want you to think of them in the love, you know? Yep. Yeah.
What,
We're all stronger than we know. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I love seeing these pictures with everybody with the writing. You know, talk about that. That is part of a tool processing, but my gosh, that is so cool. Tell me about that.
Thank you. That is called Faces of Resilience. And so I saw, I love this one. This is another bereaved mother and I, who's a good friend. And I saw somebody doing something similar, but in a totally different context and for different reasons. And I said, oh my God, I have to make this available to not only the bereaved parents I was working with, but, you know, everybody. And it just, because it's so cathartic. And so I started doing it. And then I reached out to Compassionate Friends, which, you know, again, I have a chapter of, and they allowed me to do their national conference. So now I've done like 5 national conferences for the Compassionate Friends and a couple for bereaved parents of the USA. I've done overcoming addiction vigils, walks on the Capitol, walks to remember, you know, lots of different things. And then I did a photo book. So I've got a photo book called Faces of Resilience with a couple hundred of these with all different relationships. Everyone just has a first name, what happened in relationships and cause of death, so that people don't feel so alone. So that's in my photo gallery and it's in the photo book. And I want to do a series of those books, you know, with focus maybe on suicide and overdose, with widows, with siblings, with, you know, different themes like that. So I'm working on trying to figure out how to do that. But I've got, you know, 1,000 of these, and I really want to do so many more and get many more languages. And it's just beautiful with how people express themselves.
Wow. How do you get this? Because I'm as a filmmaker, and
Yeah.
you talked about film, you know, you things that inspire, oftentimes music, which I love music, and
Yes.
I love film, which is so powerful. And then even blending the two together, it makes it even better than 1 + 1 when you add those together and
Sure.
they touch somebody's heart. And so I look at those pictures and I just think of films and moving. I bet because you mentioned earlier that you have, you know, cameras and stuff you set up and film. Talk about a little bit about these, because you've got videos, I'm sure.
Well, the video tips like the one you saw, I've got 18 of those with each with a different tip, and it's using one of the photos as kind of the subject to talk about that tip. But I've also got, and Tamara, I don't know if you've still got this, but we've got a 4-minute video that a friend of mine, I did collages for all the different photo shoots I had done through a couple of years. And a friend of mine, Mitch Carmody, Heartlight Studios, he actually put it together in a little 4-minute video clip, little movie, which was beautiful. And I would love to do more of that and more, finding out more of this sort of thing. Because you're right, it's very powerful.
I will say this, I didn't load it. However, I can because of the fact that the music that was attached to it, we got pegged last show. So, and POE, you understand that because of copyright issues. And so it's beautiful. However, you know, we can show it later. And for anybody that wants to see it, it is actually on the Tour of Love. I mean, the Service Hero show. However, you can't listen to the song now; it's been muted. So
yeah, sorry about that. I don't think he realized, or he thought it was okay. I don't know, whatever. But in any case, it's a lovely video together. But music, just what we're talking about that. I had a friend of mine, and she's not a medium, but she has the ability to understand my son, and she sends me messages. And he channeled 2 songs to her. And I had them recorded in a studio, and they're set up as a free gift on my website, on butterfliesjourney.com. One is an instrumental that we call the theme of A Butterfly's Journey, and then the other is called Love Everlasting. And it's actually a message from him to me that I believe is meant for all bereaved parents and all grievers, because, you know, and I witnessed her channel it, and I was blown away, and I was sobbing, and I had no idea why. And then I did a quick video recording and on my phone for this. It came through a second time, and then a couple of months later, because I actually did an audio book, and then we had her come in the studio and record both of the songs.
Well, that sounds like a perfect opportunity to use that song, which wouldn't be flagged, and put those pictures together that also have a lot of meaning. So either if you've got help, I'll help you with any of that. I mean, just as,
that's awesome.
as a free service to help you with this, because it's so a part of what that my nonprofit is amplifying truth and finding people on the front lines who are making a difference and and trying to promote those using my music and filmmaking and so forth in the combination. So that's awesome. My nonprofit is to help that, and you're doing it. So I'd love
yay.
Thank you. I would love to. I would love to collaborate.
You just watch something here happen on web TV in front of you. This is how, behind the scenes, you don't usually get to see it on air. So thank you very much, Poe, for stepping up to help, because this is an extremely important subject. In fact, using the idea of music, I am going to share another one of your tips that is involved with music. Here you go.
This is Holly. She chose to heal after losing her daughter Jacqueline to illness. You can imagine Holly and her family went through a period of time that was tragic. My name is Barbara J. Hopkinson of A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal. We help individuals and families struggling with grief to find a new normal after experiencing the loss of a child or other traumatic loss. The fact that you are experiencing something you never thought would happen is exactly why it is normal to feel like Holly was feeling, and this is why we suggest using music to help you heal. When you listen to music after the loss of a loved one, it can have various initial effects, but they are mostly all healing in the long term. We have many songs in our music section of our free online resource center that relate to loss, including heartfelt lyrics, beautiful instrumentals, and classics. Some suggestions on getting started. Think about some of the songs that have touched you, especially since you lost your loved one, and make a list. Check out our free resource center, the music tab at abutterfliesjourney.org, where there are links to songs we've collected. Let us know about your favorites, too, by contacting us. Download your favorite music through iTunes or Amazon and make a special playlist ready for when you feel like listening to that music. Music can be a powerful tool. It was for Holly as she chose to heal.
Wow. Wow. I can't wait to look at and go through your website and learn more. I don't know, you may have been familiar with that Omega scale that Tamara put up, and we're at grief. I think we saw it was at 70, and love was way up there at 500, and we talked a little bit about that. But in these tools that you are creating and offering people to help them move up that. I mean, I had grief, but my brother was killed, and I was supposed to be there with him, and maybe something would have been different. And guilt's down there at 30. And even shame. I mean, it's to be down in there. So little tools or practices or rituals or just items that have the vibration of something that brings you that feeling of love helps you move up that scale. So what you're showing us, those tips, are beautiful practices, are they not, to help move up that ladder of frequency to where we can almost smile about it and be grateful.
Yes, eventually, hopefully. I mean, gratitude brings all kinds of healing. And I'm so grateful for the lives of my sons and my husband, even though I don't have them anymore, because my life would have been very different, without them and their input. And still, I mean, like I said, I still feel their presence. So it absolutely means a lot. And I just wanted to point out, I'd forgotten to mention before, that my site, butterfliesjourney.org, has a free resource center, and it has hundreds of resources in 10 categories. Oh, wow. So, and I'm trying to do some fundraising to get some help to add more to it, especially since COVID, because so many different kinds of loss around COVID, to specialize in more of that, and these epidemics of overdose and and suicide and all that. But there's there's books, there's music, there's videos, there's TED Talks. It's a broad base, and all the musics. I'm just going to a link directly to where you can buy the music, their original link. I don't take anything, copy anything, take anything from it. I'm just trying to point it to people. I've collected, at least 30 or 50 music, videos that relate to grief, not videos, music, songs or whatever that relate to grief. And I use those I do an annual candle lighting every year. That's part of the Compassionate Friends Global Candle Lighting. We ask people to light candles, and it's a 24-hour, for an hour in your local time zone. So it forms a 24-hour memory. And I use those songs and some readings as part of that candle lighting memorial for whoever wants to come and join me.
Wow.
So music's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's often where I start to set the mood, and I write a lot of my own music and so forth. But it's and in this day and age where the whole reason to have a tour of love or have these tools for grief, because obviously we can pinpoint the loss of somebody or a situation. But as you said, with COVID and so many things have been lost that we grieve over. A way of life that has been changed up in Canada. A lot of different places are still locked down. Some are freeing up. Here in the holler around northern Arkansas, the restaurants opened up, and they kind of everything, tables are back together and no mask and all that. And my God, it's like, who let the dogs out? I mean, it was like a flood of people, and you could waiting lines everywhere. And I've been talking to people. It was like, oh my God, because that grieving process of a life lost, and helping transition and transform into what's coming. If we can keep it up in the higher vibration, the better. So all of this is related to so much more than just a specific person or situation, is it not?
Yeah. And COVID had so many kinds of losses. People lost their jobs, they lost their homes, they lost their businesses. Never mind the over 500,000 people that were lost the lives. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, to be able to help, and the resource center is available 24/7, so people they just log in, they just put their email in and they log in, and it's all free and they can access it any time. So that the whole point is, you're up at midnight, you're up at 2:00 in the morning and you can't sleep. Maybe going and listening to a TED Talk might help, or something, or a video.
Go ahead, Tamara.
Thank you. What I wanted to do right now is also, before we get any further into the show, is I wanted to go into an area that I thought was really, you actually touched on it, Skip Poe, in regards to food, restaurants, and everything like this. And Caroline is huge when it comes to cooking. In fact, her whole thing is, everything needs to be fresh, organic, or this, and on and on. Yeah. Now, you actually, in one of your tips, you talk about the cooking. We can share the tip. And then I also wanted to say, because I've been in the process of moving, I have been touching items that, I'm not only looking at the recipe, I'm looking at the actual item that it used to be cooked and served in, that was from that relative that's now passed. And I'm thinking, what a legacy is that? And, these are things, once we do get healed, that we can then, transfer that history and those memories for generations within our families. And so I wanted to share this clip, and then I'm going to let Caroline kind of take the lead for a moment, and so that we can talk about this, because I think that there's a lot of people that are really into food.
Oh yeah, I'm one of them. I'm a foodie.
This is Linda. She chose to heal after losing her husband to an aneurysm suddenly while on vacation with family. You can imagine Linda went through a period of time that was extremely difficult and frightening. My name is Barbara J Hopkinson of A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal. We help individuals and families struggling with grief to find a new normal after experiencing the loss of a partner, child, or other traumatic loss. The fact that you are experiencing something that you never thought would happen is exactly why it is normal to feel like Linda is feeling. And this is why we suggest cooking as one way to help you heal. That may sound odd, but cooking is not only creative, it is nurturing, and it takes some focus. When you cook, especially for others, you need to do some preparation as well as create something that looks and tastes good. Then, when you share it, you're giving with love and getting love in return, which is quite healing. Some ideas for cooking and healing. Make some of your loved ones' favorite foods, share with the families, and tell stories of them while you're enjoying it. Get family and friends involved. Let everyone make a part of the meal that you'll share, which gives them time to think of stories too. If you don't know how to cook something that person loved, see if you can buy it and just tweak it a little to make it your own. Cooking is an act of love. Love for the one you lost and for those who remain. It is creative and healing. It was for Linda as she chose to heal.
These are, they're on my YouTube channel for A Butterfly's Journey, all these tips and a bunch of other stuff too.
Caroline, I heard a lot about cooking and a lot of love in that clip right there in the tour of love. So go, Caroline.
No, cooking is healing. It really is. Because you can get very creative with food. And my husband and I both cook. I learned from my father. My mother was not a cook. So we learned a lot of skills from my father on cooking. And actually, my older brother loves to cook too.
My son is a chef.
Yeah, but I get enjoyment out of it because I get creative with things.
Yeah.
So the other day I made stuffed meatballs with cheese in it with a Korean barbecue sauce with hoisin sauce. And oh my goodness, it was so delicious. But it was like just being creative, like just my own recipe and putting the love into it. And then I said to my husband, I hope they turned out okay. And so when he tried them, he goes, oh, they're really good. Because the hoisin sauce and the Korean barbecue sauce together kind of gave it that smoky flavor and a little bit of spice to it. So I had that with salad, and it was great. Like I also bake a lot of bread, buns, and different things, and I give it out to my friends, in my community here. So they come to my door. I just kind of hang it on the outside of the door when I know they're coming up, so that they can pick it up off the door, because we're in stay-at-home order here, and we're not allowed to have people in our homes, and it's painful. This has been a year and a half or more that I've been in my home, not being able to see family. So I take cooking, and that's why I am big.
Yeah,
I eat my own food.
Well, and sorry to interrupt. However, with what she was just sharing, there's a moderation also, right, Barbara, in regards to, you're looking at the idea of the cooking, like you were sharing in the tip. You can get the family together. You can maybe even give different assignments, like what Caroline was sharing. You can
tell stories,
right? Yeah. Exactly, and share it with others in the neighborhood. And if you're in lockdown, put it in a bag, put it on the door, whatever it may be. There's a way of being able to therapeutically work through this so that you are then helping to heal. I'm curious in regards to, Caroline was just sharing some of her favorite ideas and foods. What about you? And what was your son's favorite? And, do you cook it still? And is there, some kind of thing that you personally do that's revolving around the cooking and healing?
Well, I mean, there are certain things. My mother made we called it fish turbot. It's like a creamed haddock dish with buttered crumbs on top that my son loved. And my mother, I think I still might have the casserole dish that she used it in. I have her glasses from like her bridal shower in 1941, a few of those like in my cupboard and stuff. And my mother-in-law really taught me how to cook and be creative. She was Sicilian, And oh my God, I mean, that's when because my mother used a recipe for everything, but my mother-in-law said, forget that, just be creative with it. And that's where I learned to love to cook. And my remaining son, Brad, he's a chef now. He was trained in Johnson & Wales, but he loved helping cook growing up. And so it's always been a really big part of my life. And my first husband was a really good cook as well. My second husband didn't cook at all.
That's me.
Oh, it took me 10 years to get him to make a pot of coffee. I mean, it was really bad.
I can make coffee.
Yeah. But anyway, but every time I make that sauce, that amazing, Italian red sauce with all the meats in it that my mother-in-law showed me how to make, I think of her, and every time you make something that was one of your loved ones' favorites, you think of them, and it just brings you closer to them. I think.
Absolutely. Poe, why don't I'm going to put you back in the driver's seat here. Thank you, Caroline. And as we start to round up at the top of the hour, we've got a little more time. What is it that you would like to explore with Barbara that you feel would really help people to understand? You had mentioned the cook and love, the cooking and the love factor, bringing it all together, because raising the frequency of our world, the tour of love, we can do that. And we can be healing and we can find joy. So I'm going to pass it back to you.
Well, it's, I know we're nearing the end here, but I do have a thought when you ask that question, because so many people who are watching this and tuned into this and resonate with this whole love and the reason for the tour of love. And my question would be to Barbara would be, you deal with a lot of people going through some hard stuff. And you've gone through it. And as you talk to empaths and people, they take a lot of that on and how they own process it and keep going in your passion, excitement. And I think for so many of us who want to be also healers, not only going through the grieving, you represent somebody who has gone through so many case studies, so to speak, of people going through it and as someone out of your heart making a difference. How do you process that? And that's probably we'll have to have you back to go into it because that is so intense.
Yeah.
I really want to hear about that.
One day at a time is the short answer. And reaching out for everything. I mean, all right, so I'll give you the three in my book, A Butterfly's Journey. I ended the last chapter and I wrote the first part was the 2 weeks from the phone call to the funeral, my 21-year-old son's death, and then the second part was 10 years later, and I ended the chapter with I ended the book with the three most important things I learned, and so one of them was to really trust your gut. Don't worry too much about other people's advice because you know more than anybody else what you need, but be open to new things. So I had never heard of like energy healing or anything like that, and it turned out to be very helpful. And then the other thing was helping others helps you heal. It's amazing how not just cathartic and the appreciation, but it gets the focus off yourself. It's very healing. And the third was it's all about the love. That's literally the name of that part of the chapter. It's all about the love. And that is about, just focusing on the love you had and the memories and the positive memories and feeling that love as it continues beyond death, So that's hopefully a not too long answer.
That's beautiful. Perfect. Tamara, are we about there? It's we've been.
We've got a few more moments. In fact, you mentioned in actually, and I've got them loaded right now. You mentioned about the energy healing. I'm going to play that one because we do have time, and it's going to touch a lot of people because you go on. What does that mean? Energy healing.
Okay.
My name is Barbara J. Hopkinson. I chose to heal after losing 3 children at different ages from 3 different causes. Then I lost my 30-year marriage. As you might imagine, I went through a long, hard journey with some scary moments. I founded A Butterfly's Journey to a New Normal. We help individuals and families struggling with grief to find hope and a new normal after experiencing the loss of a child or other early traumatic loss. The fact that you are experiencing something that you never thought would happen is exactly why it is normal to feel lost and looking for ways to heal. This is why we suggest keeping an open mind and trying various forms of holistic energy work to help you heal. Things like acupuncture, Reiki, polarity, reflexology, sound healing, and other forms of energy healing may seem foreign to you. They did to me. But I sensed that I needed to try something different to ease the extreme grief I was enduring, and I found that energy work helped. Some suggestions regarding energy work. Do some research to see what types of energy healing appeal to you. Get referrals to holistic practitioners from others who have used them and seen good results. Try any given type of energy work at least 2 or 3 times to see if it has impact. You may not see results in the first session. Energy healing can be a powerful tool. It was for me as I chose to heal.
You know, I want to say the reason I wanted to play that before the end of the show was because of the fact that really, when you think about some of these different energies, it goes right back to the frequency that we're talking about here at the Tour of Love. And so, you know, it all comes together when we bring frequency in, when we allow energy to come into our lives. It's amazing how we can then allow for also the connection and taking ourselves out of ourselves and no longer, if you will, hiding away. A lot of people do. We can let, you know, say, okay, I am going to baby step it right now, and baby step after baby step. I'm going to go here. And that's why I wanted to share that one clip, because it gives actionable steps. Like, okay, have you ever heard of Reiki? Have you ever heard of acupuncture? Have you ever heard of massage? Whatever it may be, that might be the very first step, because sometimes it can seem so big, yet it doesn't have to. And that's what I wanted to kind of round the show up with. Go ahead.
Just interesting also, because my background was software company and international technology. I worked for IBM for 10 years. We didn't talk about stuff like sexuality. All that stuff was extremely foreign to me. And so I was like, but I got to do something. I know I've got to do something different. So I had some friends, especially theater friends, that were very much into it, and they were very patient with me, and they'd listen. They didn't run, which, by the way, is one of the best things you can do for people around you grieving. And they just introduced me to people, and I started trying things little by little. And now I've probably tried every form of energy healing known to man, and they were all helpful in some way, some more than others. But it's amazing how much difference. And when you think about it, the law of physics says nothing ever really goes away, right? It just transforms from energy to matter. So that made me believe that, you know, that's another reason to believe that our loved ones' spirits are all still with us. And energy is really important. And it's also important with that scale you have that talks about getting yourself into a more positive level and attracting more positive things in your life.
Absolutely. And then just to round it out is that we in cb4l.org, of which the Tour of Love supports, we are doing healing through art and art therapy. And we're not going to go into your clip.
There's a clip about that too.
I know.
Yeah.
And guys, go check it out, because the bottom line here is like all the art behind Caroline. You got the music there with Skip, or Beautiful. Also known as Poe, and we are doing a dragonfly, not a butterfly, but a dragonfly. This is mine. It's not quite finished yet. We're doing. Thank you. We're doing it in a different class, and so when you can, and we're doing it through the internet. Guys, think outside of the box, right? Okay, we're having classes. Caroline and Christopher Kaysen are our teachers, and we sent the supplies through the mail. Think outside of the box, and there's hers. Yeah. And what we're sharing right now, and yes, I'm with Skip Poe. And I want to officially welcome you back at another time so we can continue this conversation, because this is a part of life. They talk about the dash, right? Well, what's on each side of the dash? What are the two sides of the dash? You have your birthday and you have your day that you gain.
Yeah, we call it our
that
anniversary date. Yeah.
There you go. We call it gain your wings,
Yeah.
and whatever it may be. Then you've got the dash in between. Well, many people understand what that means. Yet, how do you live the dash? And Barbara, you're helping people to get over the fact that, or to transform. Let's put it that way. Transform through with love, tour of love, the fact that they love someone and that person now has gained their wings, has their angel anniversary. What would you like to leave us with? We've got just a minute or so left, 2 at the most, probably. What would you like to leave us with?
Maybe the thought that goes back to that picture you showed earlier, that we are all stronger than we think we are. You're stronger than you know. And your loved ones not only are still with you, they want you to heal and they want you to be well. And sometimes when the grief is too strong and too hard, it's like a tether to them. It holds them back in their angelic journey. And I've heard this from a lot of different spiritual people, and even from my son, that if you can really just focus on the love, it allows them to remain with you, but not be so tethered that it holds them back, and then it allows you to fly and develop your own new wings, and find your resilience. Right, find hope and resilience is what I really am trying to help people do.
I love it. In fact, I think that what we'll do upon the end of the show is we will end with the song that Poe and Julie Christopher sing, that was created for the nonprofit that we support, cb4l.org. And so A Butterfly's Journey, I want to say thank you to Skip Poe and Caroline Berzins for being co-hosts, and Barbara Hopkinson, thank you for coming on the tour of love with us. And we're looking forward to having you again. So we are going to say goodbye for today, and do so by playing the song that we are stronger together, because we are stronger together. We are the ones.
Together we are stronger than sadness. Together we are stronger than cancer. Together we are stronger. We are one, we are love, we are hope, we are the ones to change the world with our hearts. We are one, we are love, we are hope, we are the ones to change the world with our hearts. Heal my hope, hearts, hearts, love, love, love. Heal my hope, hearts, hearts, love, love, love. Heal my hope, hearts, hearts, love, love, love. Heal my hope, hearts, hearts, love. We are one, we are love, we are hope, we are the ones to change the world with our hearts. We are one, we are love, we are hope, we are the ones to change the world with our hearts. We are the ones to change the world with our hearts.